Welcome back to the studio. I told you we will be back with more on Good Morning Anambra, and here we are with a topic that says tackling building collapse in Nigeria. In the studio we have builder Alex Chukwumike, who is going to help us. He is the chapter secretary, Nigeria Institute of Builders, Anambra State. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
How was your weekend?
Beautiful.
All right. Welcome, sir. All right. It was really a Black Wednesday in Lagos, Nigeria at 10 in the morning when a four-story building housing a primary school at the topmost floor came crumbling. As Nigeria were mourning and trying to make out the meaning of all the tragedies happening around, another one happened in Ibadan exactly 2 days after the one that happened in Lagos. Just 2 days after the Lagos tragedy, this is not the first time and definitely not the worst casualty, but man must keep looking for solutions to solve its numerous problems. And that's why we are here this morning to look at the possibility of tackling building collapse in Nigeria. Now, Builder Chukwumike, how would you assess the rate of building collapse in our country, Nigeria?
Thank you very much. The rate of building collapse in Nigeria is inexplicable, and it is shameful. It is inexplicable because we have all it takes to make sure these things don't happen. But unfortunately, they happen. Before I go into the main theme proper, I want us to know what building collapse is. It is when you define what is building collapse that you'll be able to say what are the causes, that you'll be able to say these are the recommendations and these are the remedies. You see, a building structure tends to collapse when part or whole of that building structure starts going, in parts, starts going through defects that will eventually climax into the collapse. For example, in construction of a building, you have the substructure, you have the superstructure. Substructure is the foundation, which is the most critical and very important aspect of a building. The superstructure is from the DPC, has to do with the walls, the columns, the beams, the roof. We call them superstructure. Any part or whole of this element that has defects, the building is it's going to the destination of collapse.
So that's the definition of building collapse.
Yes.
And now we actually know that it's the frequency of this definition of what you talked about, the building collapse in Nigeria, is alarming. Now, my question is, who is to be blamed? Is it because the builders or the specifications of people who are responsible for the recommendation of building facilities, housing, and stuffs, what have you, are not tutored well or don't follow the right recommendations?
Thank you very much. Now, this brings me to say, who is a builder? In the built environment, we have professionals. We have the town planner, we have the architect, we have the engineer, structural engineers, we have the quantity surveyor, we have the builder. The builder is the professional that has been academically trained from practical experience to manage building production processes on a day-to-day basis. And you can see that anything you are doing without a single point responsibility, that thing is bound to fail. What am I trying to say? When we were talking briefly when I came into the studio, I was telling you that there are levels of quackery. We have the external quackery, we have the internal quackery. What do I mean by external quackery? Those engineers on the streets that their offices is in the Bako super bag. You know the people I'm talking about? They are all over the street there. If you go to, you see them, you go to you see them. Their offices are in a Bako super bag. Now, the internal quackery is among the professionals. Where you are an architect, your business is to do a design, architectural design, the concept of the building structure. You are a town planner. Your business is to develop the land, do the environmental impact assessment, and everything before the design comes in and the architect receives the brief. The structural engineer does the design of the foundation using the soil parameters that he must go for a test. Then the builder who manages the building production process takes over. It is his business to translate all that is on paper physically on ground.
All right. Now, in the course of the press at the scene of the building collapse in Lagos, I watched one engineer being interviewed, and according to him, he said, and I quote, that most of our people do not, contract professionals when they are building. Now, you've been able to outline all the processes and people that are involved, and from what this engineer said, do you totally agree? And why do you think our people don't make use of all these people that have been trained, to carry out the work of building?
I agree with the engineer's assertion that relevant professionals are not engaged in the built environment.
They are professionals and they are relevant professionals.
Relevant professionals.
Okay, so maybe you want to explain more
yes,
about
Yes, I explain, for instance, I'm a builder. If I go to do architectural designs, I'm not relevant in that space.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome.
I am Sunday. Good morning. I am Sunday calling from Nteje.
Sunday, please move away from your TV set. Move away from your TV set.
Okay, sir. There is what I want to contribute.
Go ahead.
I like
Suba.
Ganiru na.
Okay, I engineer could handle me now. But no problem, man. I think here. If we see where the Ganiru send the alone. Most of the people it was a legacy on different places. It's like they make the Vaputasia, but I ain't so true. That's not the government and Nigerian university, study and practical.
Odima Sunday Dalo, Sunday
I
Dalo.
have seen a practical. One legacy I will. They are different places.
All right, darling, Sunday.
Odima Sunday. I think Sunday is hearing us today.
Yeah, so, okay, go ahead before the call
we're talking about relevant professionals.
Professionals and,
I say that if, as a builder, I go into designs, architectural designs, I'm not relevant in that space.
All right, let's see who's here. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Engineer John Paul, I'm going to come up this morning.
John Paul, welcome.
Good morning to the resource person builder.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. I want to contribute this one. See, all you have seen, I know that. And I want to say that in the course of building collapse, in any part of this world, it is a result of what you have just mentioned. standard compromise. People and most of the clients will go to patronize people that they see that are on their own specification without knowing the specification of what they want to train or what they are doing. Why am I saying so? You see a landlord or a client who will now like to patronize the so-called street builder, who are not trained practically and academically. But because he can get some cheap things from him, he will now resort to patronizing them. Because I see that a time if he goes to patronize professionals, well-trained professionals, go to the architect for drawing, working drawing, from the architect now to the structural engineer who will design the enforcement of that structure. It's going to cost him a lot, but it's going to benefit him from the structural engineer now to a registered builder or an external engineer who will now translate what is on the paper on the ground. Because we see that the kind of protocol and they are going to spend much money, then we ignore it. And the president
All right. Thank you so much, John Paul. John Paul.
What I'm trying to say is that our people begin to see life as something precious, they will never be end of.
All right, thank you very much, John Paul. You can go on and on.
Okay.
Now we are talking about when we have
the builder.
When you go
and into architectural design,
all right.
you're not relevant.
It's quackery.
It's quackery.
Yes.
All right.
And when an architect goes into construction, it's quackery. Because the architect does not have enough building production management content.
All right. Now, in the course of this program,
I'm not being personal or trying to
I
run down.
know. We are trying to see a way forward.
Yes,
So that it could be reduced to the barest minimum.
Yes.
Not that buildings don't collapse.
Yes.
But going through this, I found out that in the more developed countries, the collapses they experience either as a result of natural disaster or attack from SEAL members and stuff like that, just like in the September 11 attack. Now, coming down to our place, the professionals keep saying that we use materials that are not, commensurate with what we are supposed to build. Substandard materials
Yes.
and stuff like that. And you see our buildings, our resources being wasted now and then. As you people are members, is there anything you are doing to enlighten our masses on the need to use these professionals so that we get standard buildings around?
Thank you. So, yes, we are
Before you answer, let's see who is here before you answer. Sorry. Hello?
Hello.
Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. For the want of time, this is John Paul. For the want of time, these are the ways to tackle this issue. Now, the architect is there to produce the
All right.
Two, the structural is there to patronize him. Now, the accident, for instance, here in Anambra, they have to be changed.
John Paul, you must be one of these professionals.
Yes.
I think. Please hold on. Let's answer some questions here.
Yes.
So what's your take? What are you people doing to enlighten our masses?
Yes. We have been going on direct and indirect mass enlightenment campaigns to let people know that it is cheaper to engage the right professional first time. You save money, you save lives, you save embarrassment, and you save bringing our professional ethics and our integrity into nothing. You see, the built environment, we have a lot of professionals, but we don't have synergy. As I'm talking to you now in the present Anambra State, that's why I want to thank Chief Obiano and the other government, the government that he succeeded. They brought in the Anambra State laboratory test, material testing laboratory highly sophisticated equipment, highly equipped with standard professionals manning that place. The issue is that our people, our professionals, they compromise. For instance, if you engage me as a builder into a job for a job, I will ask some relevant questions. Like, there's a job I'm doing somewhere, I don't want to mention the name. I came in, looked at the design, even at the tender stage. I started asking questions. What are the basis for the choice of foundation and the design type of and the design by extension? They told me they did it by assumption. I said, I don't work with assumptions. We must go and run the relevant tests, get what informed, know the soil parameter, that will give us the idea of the choice of foundation and then the design of the foundation.
Can I ask a question?
Let me finish. Okay. That moved us to Anambra State Material Testing Lab. They came in, conducted tests, both for the soil, both for the reinforcement, both for the chipping, that is the granites. Every material used on that site were tested. They spent a chunk of money, but I insisted because I have an option. If you say you won't go that way, I will say sorry. Yes.
Before you came into that particular job you're talking about now, were there no professionals handling that job before you were called upon?
No, it was a fresh job.
So you were the very first person.
Yes.
So who were the people who took the assumption kind of ideas on this job?
That's what I'm saying. We compromise as professionals. Professionals compromise. Because before you do the structural design, you will tell the client, look, sorry, we must conduct this test as a guide. It also protects you in the long run. Oh yes, because you come in and then say, these are the basis for this choice of foundation. These are the basis for my design. It's not, you don't plug figures from the air.
Okay. All right, now we compromise. Even somebody that wants to build a house, compromise. The professionals compromise. Because there's something that is really bugging me. I was somewhere recently, and a building where I used to live, they said the landlord now brought a lawyer. So my question was, what are the work of estate managers? What do they do? That lawyers now contract buildings, collect money and stuff like that. And this is exactly what seems to be happening in virtually all professions. What are you people doing as professionals to really, dip this in the board? We should not continue this way.
No, we cannot.
We cannot continue this way.
Okay, what we are doing now, you see, we have been having series of meetings, series of conversations with our fellow professionals. For instance, in Anambra State, the physical planning department, whose business should actually be developmental processes, production processes, is currently housing building control processes. I don't know what I'm saying. Now, we are striving for the building control processes to be housed, to be managed by Ministry of Housing. That agency now, just like the Anambra State Material Testing Lab, which has been manned, it's an independent but with a lot of support from the government. So we are now trying to say we separate the building control production processes from the physical planning. If the potential developer or the potential client knows that when he collects his building plan stamped by the government, that is going to the building control process agency, he will be more careful, because it makes it mandatory that every building site should have a professional resident builder. That is the man with the single point responsibility of building production management.
Okay, good. Now let's talk about the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, because I know that without COREN's approval, nothing should be built. My question is, are building professionals, approved by the Council of Regulation of engineering Korean in Nigeria, are they approached by it to build houses or whatever they build in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for this question. You see, like I told you, there are relevant professionals in different building spaces, or the built environment spaces, or the construction industry. Korean, I am a member of Korean, and I'm a member of Kobon. You can see my tag here. Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. Now we have different functions, but we have a point where we meet. The point where we meet is that the things that are supposed to be done are supposed to be done properly. Now, the civil engineer, in general terms, has been trained for hydraulic structures, dams, highways, and all those. Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
The civil engineer in general has been trained for designs and construction of highways, hydraulic structures like dams, culverts, bridges, etc. Now, the Korean as a body regulates all those details. Now, when you come after the civil engineer umbrella, you have structural engineers, you have geological engineers, you have all those people. These people are relevant in their various spheres. Now, the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria, they are in charge of now regulating the building production processes.
You know, don't you think that for us to really get it right, that all these bodies should come together? You know, you have Korean, you have Kobon, and probably they may have other things. And that synergy, does it really come to play, you know, in order to forestall these occurrences? Because, like you said, some people may not agree. But I think that when you come under one umbrella, you know, and what's your take?
Thank you. That is the gospel we're trying to preach. And that is why I'm so happy being on this program this morning. We need the synergy. The professionals are on one divide. Our common enemy are the quacks.
All right. So, now, for want of time, you know, our people think it's really expensive to engage professionals in all these things, since there are other people they can use, you know. Now, I would like you, really, as we are rounding up, to tell our people what to do we can do as a people to forestall this reoccurrence of building collapse in Nigeria.
And when you also answer that question, you could just, chip in. How do the injured, and people who dies in such issues, the collapse building, how do they get compensated? So you can actually sum all together.
Okay. All I need to say is that we need the synergy. We need to work together as a people, as professionals, to achieve the common goal. It is a psych thing. It's an orientation thing that you get it cheaper from a non-professional. The professional will charge you money. In the short run, it looks expensive, but in the long run, it's all value added. Because if there's a collapsed building, resources are wasted, lives are wasted. You cannot chalk them down into anything because the so-called engineer must have vanished into the thin air. The potential developer or the client will also vanish into thin air. You don't have anybody to hold responsible.
So the solution, in 1 second.
The solution is that engage the right people for the right jobs.
All right.
Think wise and build wise.
All right. We'd like to thank you so much, Builder Alex Chukwuwike, the Chapter Secretary, Nigeria Institute of Builders, Anambra State. Okay, building Anambra State. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for really enlightening us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, this is where we end this one. Do stand by because we are coming back after now for more on Good Morning Anambra.